Even if you bleed blue, there's a chance that you miss something in Marvel's movie, Captain Marvel. Marvel's Marvel. So buckle up, because here we go on another adventure.
What's happening?
It's loading.
Captain Marvel the movie started out with Carol Danvers immediately having her superpower, so let's start off here immediately. You recognize Ronan the Accuser from Guardians of the Galaxy, and the reason why he doesn't have the war paint on his face yet is because Captain Marvel, even though made after Guardians of the Galaxy, it actually takes place before Guardians of the Galaxy as far as timelines go. This guy right here is also from Guardians of the Galaxy. He's Korath the Pursuer, who tried to stop Peter Quill in the beginning of the movie. He's also played by the actor Jimin Hanzo, and if you remember in my video about the movie Gladiator, he also played as a gladiator in that movie. This probably explains why he's the only one in the entire group that's carrying swords as a weapon. This security guard right here is played by Barry Curtis, and he's actually a security guard for Marvel. In fact, he's the head of security for the Marvel movies. The random sound effect that the scroll makes was made by co-writer and co-director Anna Boden. Fun fact, the stage where the scene was filmed is also the same stage where Wizard of Oz was made. When the subway arrives at the station and the scroll escapes, we have a few cameos on the train platform. This lady here is TV writer Kelly Sue DeConnick, who also consulted for the movie. This guy right here is Ted, who is also the chef for the movie. Of course, Stan Lee has his own cameo in the movie. You can and probably did see him on one of the subway cars before they managed to arrive at the station. If you look closely, Stan's reading a script for the movie Mallrats.
Trust me, true believer. Trust me.
Here's what's going on though. The movie Captain Marvel is supposed to be taking place in the 1990s. In real life in 1995, Stan Lee was rehearsing his lines for the movie Mallrats. This cameo here is also the last cameo that they have recorded with Stan Lee, and at this point in his life he was too weak to speak clearly, so the audio that you hear him saying,
Trust me, true believer. Trust me.
is actually unused audio from the making of the movie Mallrats.
Trust me, true believer.
This is also confirmed by the director of Mallrats, Kevin Smith, who also played as Silent Bob in his own movie. Speaking of Stan Lee, if you check out Marvel's official 90s themed webpage of Captain Marvel, then scroll over to the About page, then scroll all the way down to the bottom, then keep scrolling past the bottom, and you're going to see Stan Lee is hiding in the darkness. The medical examiner doing the autopsy on the scroll is played by Nelson Franklin, and you might recognize him as a character from The Office, and his name was Nick, I think?
My name is Nick.
Okay, well, Nick.
Not Nick.
What was his name?
I just said my name just now. Did you forget it already?
No. Sport?
This guy was actually in The Office several different times.
Everybody calls me Fury. Not Nicholas, not Joseph, not Nick. Just Fury.
What does your mom call you?
Fury?
What do you call her?
Fury.
What about your kids?
If I have them, they'll call me Fury.
This does not mean
I'm
that we're
sorry,
making...
Nick. What were you lying?
Not Nick.
I know, Nick.
Not Nick.
Don't do this to me, Nick.
Not Nick.
Those hostages could have died, Nick.
Not Nick. Thank you.
Toast is cut diagonally. I can't eat it.
Also, some people argue that this isn't actually Nick, and in fact, they think it's a scroll because later on in Avengers Age of Ultron, we do see that Nick Fury actually cut his bread. Well, and some say it's diagonal. I looked at the scene, and I can't say with certainty that I agree that it's actually cut diagonally. And it's bread, not toast or a crisp. Either way, Fury learns his lesson about not trusting anything.
Those bad guys still in there somewhere.
You okay?
He needs some milk.
This is exactly why in Winter Soldier we see Nick say,
Last time I trusted someone, I lost an eye.
the movie Captain Marvel literally makes a normal comment turn funny. If you recall back in Avengers, Bruce asked this.
What does Fury want me to do? Swallow it?
This is obviously a pun on what the cat did. For today's survey question, I decided to let one of you ask the question, and Samantha Hahn asked if you could pick, what superpower would you have? Flight, invisibility, laser eyes, or super strength? In Infinity War's post-credit scene, we see Fury use the pager to call for help. And here in Captain Marvel is when we see Carol gave Fury that pager, which she just stole from him. But if you look closely, the key that she used to make that collect call to outer space is the same key that she used to modify Fury's pager, so that way she can contact them from anywhere in the universe. And yeah, that's a Game Boy. And in the 90s, you knew you were rich if you had one of these things. No, I didn't have one. So we learn here that Fury decided to name the team the Avengers because Carol Danvers' call sign was Avenger, but in the comics her call sign was actually Cheeseburger. So if we really wanted to name the superheroes after Carol's call sign, then they should be called the Cheeseburgers. Speaking of call signs, her best friend Maria Rambeau's daughter is named Monica Rambeau. Her name perfectly matches from the comics the name of another superhero whose name is Photon. And would you know it? Her mom's call sign is literally Photon. Of course, Carol also calls her Lieutenant Trouble.
Prepare for takeoff, Lieutenant Trouble.
And in the comics, Lieutenant Trouble is her #1 fan.
I'm your #1 fan!
Notice the pattern with all these younger people in Marvel, like in Ant-Man? Disney is clearly in it for the long haul, and they are prepping for the next generation of superheroes. Also, if you look closely in the back of Fury's car, you're going to actually see a subscription bell. If you click it, you too are going to have superpowers. She also wanted her mom to go on a suicide mission.
That's what I'm saying, you have to go.
Monica.
You have a chance to find the coolest mission in the history of missions.
Or another option, of course, is she could stay home and watch The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
And you're gonna give it up to sit on the couch and watch Fresh Prince with me?
As we all know, the main star of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air is Will Smith.
Oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Will Smith also starred in another 90s movie called Independence Day. And you know who else worked on the movie Independence Day? Kevin LaRosa. And Kevin LaRosa just happens to be on the file behind Carol in the file room. And if you watch that movie, you will notice that a lot of the final battle in Captain Marvel is very similar to the battle in Independence Day, where they flew through all the canyons. Another famous movie that was popular in the 90s is Top Gun, and Captain Marvel the character also shows similar personalities with Maverick the main pilot in Top Gun. The cat was also named Goose after Goose Bradshaw, which was also one of the pilots in Top Gun. However, if we go back to the comics, the cat's name is actually Chewie, referencing of course to Star Wars Chewbacca. They also took inspiration from Star Wars for some of the ship battles. Slow motion spacewalk. Do you copy? Copy, do you copy? The pilot here is a real life pilot that just happened to be there, and they told him to get into the shot for the photo. When Carol's having flashbacks and her memory is coming back, we see flashes of a burning piano. This may seem like the most random thing ever, and it doesn't really fit in the story plot at all. They just left us hanging and they never actually came back and addressed the burning piano. So why was she having flashbacks to a burning piano? The answer lies in the credits. They give special thanks to several real-life heroes who shared their knowledge and experience to help make the movie seem as real as possible. One person who helped train Brie Larson, who plays the role of Captain Marvel, is Major Stefan. In real life, he later died in a training exercise, and they dedicated the movie to Major Stefan at the end of the credits. So how does this relate to the burning piano? There's a tradition with fighter pilots that whenever one goes down, they burn a piano in their memory. The piano here that she's having flashbacks to is paying tribute to the real-life Major Stefan who passed away. It's also confirmed that he was actually in the scene where she was having flashbacks of playing pool. And I believe this is him in the background, but I can't say 100% for sure. Another thing you can see as she slowly regains her memory is that her memory is actually changing, or even remembering who shot Dr. Wendy Lawson. At one point, she even remembered that she was the one bleeding blue, even though she wasn't.
I would say that you're delusional, but we just got shot down by a spaceship and your blood is blue.
If you watch closely, as she slowly starts regaining her memory, the ears that clearly identified the shooter as the Skrull, or an elf, actually disappear for a very brief moment, exposing who the real shooter is. Or at least isn't. They were also at Edwards Air Force Base in California, which is a real base in real life. There's also a real life bar near Edwards Air Force Base called Poncho's. This is where real life test pilots used to hang out. Of course, since this is what Poncho's looks like now, I doubt they are actually still hanging out there. That would be weird. The bar is named after Pancho Barnes, who owned the bar, who was also one of the pioneers in aviation for several things, one of them being that she broke Amelia Earhart's airspeed record. The movie takes place in the 90s, but what specific year in the 90s? Well, if you look closely inside Blockbuster, they give us little tiny clues for more specifically when the movie took place. If you look down here in the corner, you're going to see advertising for Babe the movie, which came out in 1995, even though Babe probably didn't actually hit Blockbuster until 1996. Also, we see Carol's not using Google in the cyber cafe, probably because Google didn't come out until 1998. But here's how we know the movie takes place in 1995. Remember that Stan Lee was rehearsing his lines for Mallrats on the train, and Mallrats was released in 1995, so it can't take place anytime after 1995.
It couldn't have taken place before 1995 because of the Nerf Gun. That's right, let me explain why. This particular Nerf gun that Dr. Minerva has here is the vintage Sharpshooter 2 made by Nerf, which was released in 1995. So it would be absolutely impossible for this gun to be anywhere around any earlier than 1995, either on Earth or in space. So if the gun wasn't around any earlier than 1995 and the movie Mallrats was made in 1995, that means that the time Captain Marvel takes place has to be 1995.
Come on down! You're the next contestant on The Price is Right!
But if that is the case and no one's been to this spaceship in years, then how in the world did that Nerf gun get up in space?
Official SHIELD activity. Stay back.
The movie that Carol's picking up in Blockbuster here is called The Right Stuff, and it was a movie about jet pilots attempting to break the sound barrier up in the sky. So it's paying a little bit of tribute to where the fighter pilots all started. Also, if you look in the background here, you can see Hook. Now that's not really a secret, I just think that movie is really good and totally underrated and deserves a little bit of attention. So bam! Look at it!
Ah, it's a pirate's life, my lad!
The Fonz Lunchbox is Fonzie, a character from the TV show called Happy Days. Never heard of it? Ask your parents, I'm sure they've watched it growing up, or you can even ask your grandparents, they're probably still watching it. When she's picking out her wardrobe, we see a shout out. In the comics, the original Captain Marvel colors were green and white, like this. Then yellow and red, that's a shout out to Shazam! There were a bunch of wasps in real life inside the shack when they were trying to film, and we aren't talking the friendly ones like Ant-Man and Wasp. No, the ones with the little stingers.
Want me to stinger?
And if you look closely, you can actually see a few of them manage to make it into the movie.
You know, you really should be kinder to your neighbors. You never know when you're gonna need to borrow some sugar.
Let me know what movie you want to talk about next, subscribe so you don't miss our next adventure, and remember, most importantly of all, Jets and Jetlets, share a smile, they are contagious.
Got a smile for me?
Hey, share a smile, they're contagious. Can you imagine a day without smiling? That would be outrageous. Thanks for stopping by and hanging out with Crazy Nate. Make sure to leave a thumbs up if he left you feeling great. Have fun and we'll see you next time. And don't forget to subscribe.
To infinity and your mom.
Please release me. No. Let me go.
No.